Now, why do I tell black women to swirl? I even made a video explaining how black women are better suited for white men than they are for black men. And some people are a little confused, so let me explain. Bear with me. Now, many people have seen artwork that shows black women in Africa with swords, spears, as female warriors. And what many people don't know is that there's actual history behind those depictions. There actually has been black female warriors in Africa, all throughout African history, who fought, killed, and died for their black chiefs, for their countries. The Dahomey Amazons, for example, of the Fanu tribe, were a part of the military, and it was thousands of them. Some say up to 5,000-6,000 of them. Many of them volunteered to be in the military, volunteered to be warriors. And because they were women, the men would place them under more vigorous training programs than the men had. Now, granted, these female warriors was involved in a lot of black on black warfare at the command of their chiefs. But when it came time to fight the French, they fought them just as vigorously, if not more. There was even a special forces unit of black women whose specific job was to kill white male French soldiers. They even fought in hand-to-hand combat. When the French army faced off against them, they was a little hesitant to attack because they were women. But that hesitation was short-lived after they saw these women slaughtering their soldiers. Right? These women were just plumb crazy. Real warriors. They specialized in decapitation. Right? They carried machetes. Cutting off heads wasn't no thing to them. Now, they did tend to suffer a lot of heavy loss of life on the battlefield. But until you actually killed them, you had your hands full because they was coming at you. Like, they were that dedicated and proud to fight for their chief or their king. Yasantiwa, I know a lot of people know about her. During the colonial period, the Asani kings were opposed to British rule in Ghana, and those kings were captured and exiled by the British. One of them was her brother, who made her queen mother while he was in exile. Her grandson was also exiled, but she became regent. And anyways, the British demanded that the Asani people give up the golden stool. Right? The golden stool symbolized, the spirit of the Asani people. It was their throne. It was a key element of the transference of power among the Asani people. They even have it on their national flag. And it's said that the men were, they were talking about surrendering to the British, signing some kind of peace treaty. And Asante was like, no. She even told him, like, hey, you don't let no white man talk to you like that. And she told him, like, if y'all don't want to fight the British, I'm going to go recruit an army of females and we'll fight them. So the man was like, oh, nope. It's time to fight. And that sparked the war of the Golden Stool of the Ashanti against the British. Follow me. Bear with me. You got a lot of black women today who call themselves Nubian queens. And they don't even know nothing about Nubian queens. They couldn't point to the ancient land of Nubia if you gave them a map. And little do they know, there were warrior Nubian queens called Kandake, again, which was a title for queen mother. And I point that out to illustrate that black men historically have always had a great deal of respect for black women. It's always been a part of the culture. I'll come back to that. Starting with Narmer, the Egyptians started to incorporate the displaying of images of themselves smiting their enemies in Egyptian art. Their enemies were the Asiatics, or as Chancellor Williams described them, white Asiatics. Narmer is said to have been around 3200 BCE. So black men were conquering and even colonizing these white Asiatics for nearly 2,700 years. And that's not even including the 700 years or so that black men conquered whites in Spain. Right, they had a great tradition of warrior kings in Egypt who were dedicated to conquering these people and colonizing them, because these people were dead set on taking over Egypt. Long story short, after the Persians conquered Egypt, the Greeks conquered Egypt. This is around 525 BCE. After the Greeks conquered Egypt, the Romans later conquered Egypt. And the Romans wrote about how they were being attacked by Nubian armies who were being led by black female generals. Right? These black female generals were the Kandaki, the Nubian queens. Right? These women were even present on the battlefields along with their army. One is said to have showed up on the battlefield to face off against Alexander the Great riding a war elephant. Right? One of them is said to have lost the eye in battle and continued to fight. This is over 500 years after the Persian invasion. These Nubian queens are attacking the Romans. They even, attacked them once and came back with one of the Roman emperor's heads off the statue. Right, if you look at these queens depicted on the temples in Nubia, you'll see that they are projected in the same traditional manner as the warrior kings of Kemet when they were at their best. Right, historically, black women have sought to define themselves by how dedicated they were to their people and their culture. Right, they were black men's support and motivation system. When you look at statues of Egyptian pharaohs with their queens, you'll notice the queens always have their arm placed behind the pharaoh's back, symbolizing her support of him and his rule. That she has his back no matter what. You'll find this same traditional art all throughout Africa. This bond, again, between black males and black females historically has always been something that left foreigners befuddled. They came in and found a matriarchal system. They did not understand that, how the royal bloodline was passed down through the female. Other races never held women in that high of regard. Now, when you look at the black women here in America, when she abandoned black men to side with white women against black men, that is not the historical black woman. The Egyptians had fertility gods and goddesses, and the Nubians. They viewed childbirth as a blessing to humanity, a spiritual event, right? An event that could possibly yield the reincarnation of a god or great ruler. The black woman today who kills about 50,000 babies a month is not the historical black woman. And the black women who are silent on these issues are not the historical black women. When you talk about strong black women like the Dahomey, Yasantewa, Nubian queens, black women today could not even hold their bags. If the bond to their people was still alive here in America, they would have never turned against black men at our most crucial moment of self-definition, rehabilitation, and the restoration of our identity and the struggle for empowerment that black men were engaged in. Right? The actions of black men would have resurrected what had always been natural and traditional within black women, and that is to be black men's support system, to be willing to fight and die for the liberation of her group. Instead, what did they do? They turned against a black movement for a black female movement. Similar to how they turned against the Black Lives Matter movement and turned it into the Black Women Matter movement. Today's black women want everything to be about themselves. Right? When you include their creation of a swirl movement, their behavior of hiding their faults behind blaming black men for everything, the same men that they destroy. Keep in mind, black men speaking on black women here on YouTube came years after black women had already been degrading black men on TV and in magazines and other outlets that were not being offered for black men's voices to be heard. Right? When you include how they created generations of violent black men as a result of being abusive to their sons, generation after generation, when you include their hatred for what they are and their culture, for reinforcing the idea of black inferiority and thus reinforcing the dysfunctional behavior of black male on black male violence, black on black hatred and murder. And again, the black women who are silent about all this, it is clear that black women have been mentally, spiritually destroyed by their experiences as women over here in the Western Hemisphere. And as a group of men, black men who still have a little life left in them, in contrast to a group of women who have been destroyed, black women are just no longer capable of advancing the race. Just look at how destroyed the community has gotten once the ball was in their hands. They abandoned everything we were standing for at the time they departed from us. It was as if we was talking to a brick wall. It was like they completely abandoned all of our philosophies: black pride, black love, black community, so on and so forth. If they held on to this, then even after black men were systematically pushed out of the homes, they would have produced, like I've said before, more intact black families, because they became single at a time when black men were at their best. But they abandoned all that. It never touched them. They even got rid of the afros, like I pointed out several times, showing that it never touched them. Created all these dysfunctional generations of black people that we have never seen before, proving that it never touched them. All these liberations, all these black men coming out, black is beautiful, black power, so on and so forth, didn't even touch them, proving that black women are dead. They are racially dead, culturally dead. They are not what they used to be. They are a liability now. And that's exactly why I say they should swirl. And if there are a few black women that my analysis doesn't apply to, then what I'm saying should not offend you. You should be nodding your head in agreement. All right, but YouTube and social media is full of far too many black men speaking these truths, while the black women who are supporting our message remain silent or remain non-existent. They're not out here making these videos talking about these issues like we are. And again, your silence is a sign of your destruction. Because when black women have been given fair criticisms of black men over the years, black men were the first ones to openly agree and recite their message, even to other black men. We the first ones to be like, you need to take care of your business. Stop being the deadbeat dad. Hell, we've incorporated it as a part of our culture to regurgitate the shit that black women have been pushing, and we ain't even criticized it ourselves. But that scenario does not reciprocate for black men. So rather than have you continue to destroy the race, rather than watch the race continue to go backwards rapidly, as several black men have been saying, I'm telling you to swirl. Intelligent black men that just have to find needles in haystacks or travel to other countries to continue their black bloodline. Stay tuned.